Good afternoon, everybody. We're here to talk through the top 10 in the world of darts, the top 10 darts players of all time, and specifically if the new UK Open champion and now three-time UK Open champion James Wade appears in that top 10. Now, I think me and my guest Sam Gill have differing opinions on this. We did 10 minutes ago when we were going through our lists, but there's no telling how many times we're going to change our mind in the next 10 minutes while the camera's rolling. So I'll go first. I'll give you an extra couple of minutes, Sam, to change your mind. But in terms of players in the top 10, I'm not going to give you an order because it genuinely does change every couple of minutes. But Taylor, Bristow, MVG for me are my top three in that order. Then you've got the likes of Raymond van Barneveld, Gary Anderson. John Lowe for me is in number 4. John Parr, obviously, multiple-time world champion. The same with Dennis Priestley. Jockey Wilson, Martin Adams, multiple-time world champions as well, have to be included in there. And then you've got James Wade. And for me, James Wade, with the amount of titles he's won, has to be in the conversation, and for the length of time he's done it for. We talk about players that have won world championships, won major titles in eras where maybe the competition wasn't quite as strong. There are a few of them that we discussed off camera, but James Wade has won not world championships, unfortunately, but he's won major titles now over 3 decades. He's been competing at the top end of darts for the best part of 20 years. And that is an incredible achievement. So for me, James Wade is either 10th or 11th. I find it very, very hard to place James Wade above a player, let's say Jockey Wilson, because there weren't the amount of tournaments that were around when Jockey Wilson was at his peak. There were maybe only 2 or 3 major top tournaments, that being BDO World Championship, World Masters, etc. Now the players have maybe 8 or 9, maybe even 10 chances to win a major during a year. And James Wade has certainly cashed in and done that over the last couple of decades. So it's very, very hard to compare a player like James Wade to Jockey Wilson. But for me, James Wade, and I'll come back to this, either 10th or 11th. Sam.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with that. I have him in 10th myself. Of course, he's played in an era that's included Phil Taylor and Marco van Gerwen, so you got to kind of think of it in terms of that. I ended up saying off camera, you kind of even put Bobby George in the conversation if you're going by eras in terms of Bristow, Wilson, etc. Because although he didn't win a world title, he won multiple news of the world and was there or thereabouts. Of course, Raymond van Barneveld, like I said, as much as he's in, he's a bit of an anomaly really, because he only ended up winning 1 PDC world title yet. Of course, he's just made a comeback, so we never kind of know he could win another one, but I don't think he will. Compared to somebody like John Parr, who, in my opinion, is not really given the respect that he kind of deserves in terms of the amount he won. Of course, winning multiple PDC world titles, he didn't just win the one. And so I kind of agree in terms of who's on the list. Of course, Taylor, Bristow, Van Gerwen. Of course, you could kind of put that around a bit. You could say some people say Van Gerwen's number 1, some people say he's number 2. Like us, we'll kind of say he's number 5. Like I said, John Lowe, Jockey Wilson, Raymond van Barneveld. And to be fair, compared to yours, this is in order. And then you'll have Gary Anderson, Martin Adams, John Parr, and then James Wade for me. James Wade just sheds the top 10. Of course, you could have the likes of Dennis Priestley, Bob Anderson, etc., who could feasibly go ahead of James Wade. But I think in terms of eras, you've got to say that he's played through both. He's won titles in 3 decades, like Phil Taylor, and he's played in the Phil Taylor era. And like he even said when he won his UK Open, he doesn't think there'll ever be a player like Phil Taylor again. And of course, as dominant as Van Gerwen's been, like Phil Taylor is kind of the benchmark in darts, and he always will be. And so he's won titles through both of their eras when both have been in their pomp. Of course, we end up saying periods, the likes of Van Gerwen back in 2017, Phil Taylor back in I'll probably say at the early 2000s. When he ended up winning as many world titles as he did, the amount of titles he hoovered up. And yeah, so I kind of agree with that, but I kind of say James Wade just shaves the top 10, but you kind of interchange. I'll probably say I probably kind of say the probably kind of say 7, 8, 9, and 10. Who for me are Anderson, Adams, Wade. You kind of interchange all of them really, and kind of have a case for all four to kind of be turned around. And we were even speaking off camera before we ended up recording, and we said the amount of names you could in fact include that me and you won't include in the list. The amount if you're making a top 20, it'd be a lot easier. But then again, you'd probably even find even more names that you could kind of put into the list. So yeah, it's one of those debates. No matter what, you can't really stumble on a full dead set list that you're like, oh, I think this is the right one, because everyone has a differing opinion. And yeah, so have we've kind of changed the order around quite a bit since we've been speaking.
Yeah, I think the main point is longevity with James Wade, and the fact that you've got players that have won tournaments, won world championships, even multiple world championships in the list. But James Wade has won tournaments in many. His first win came back at the World Grand Prix in 2007, and you look now in 2021, he's once again another a UK Open champion for the third time. So James Wade to be playing at the top during the era, as you've said, with Phil Taylor, Adrian Lewis had a couple of years where he was hoovering up titles. Michael Van Gogh, and obviously coming in 2013 was really the year for Michael Van Gogh, wasn't it? And a decade of not dominance, but really being on top of his game during those 10 years. And there's plenty of other players you could add too, with the likes of Gary Anderson, even Peter Wright in the last couple of years, going Price more recently as well. They've really added to the darting scene. But from all those players, the player that you have to look at as a top 10 challenger in the all-time list is James Wade. Of course, a world championship would really cement his place in there, but we will have to see whether that is on the horizon for James Wade. Thank you very much for joining me, Sam. I'm sure if we were to look at this in another 10 minutes' time, the order would change. But thank you very much for joining me. And don't forget to let us know your opinions in the comments below. Is James Wade a top 10 player in the all-time list of darts players? See you soon.
Yeah,